Hi, my name is Willie Seabrook. I'm a senior Drupal consultant at Angry Cactus Technology. This presentation is entitled The Power of Drupal, and the purpose is to show people what you can do in Drupal using absolutely no coding and doing it very quickly. Today we're going to be spending about 40 minutes importing and displaying some data. The presentation was originally done on September 21 at the Cité in Tunis, Tunisia, as part of the first Drupal Meetup in Tunisia. Unfortunately, there was a technical problem and the video was not saved, so we've had to re-record it again today. What we'll be doing is importing a CSV data file from the UK Open Data website. Then we'll be displaying the data that we import as a searchable, sortable, AJAX-enabled list. Then we will show the same data, because it's geocoded data, in an Openlayers map. Then we will display the same data in a pie chart, showing how the data is broken down by region in the UK. And then we will show each of those three things, which previously were on individual pages, in one single page that we prototype and design live. Again, all without doing any coding at all. The purpose of this presentation is to not show very detailed information about exactly how to do things. We're going to be moving very, very fast. And so in the documentation and the comments section in the YouTube video, you'll see a link to a Google Doc that contains, for each section, the list of modules that we use to achieve our outcome. So for example, in the first section, when we geocode data, I've got the address field and geocoder modules listed. So if you're more interested about how to geocode data in Drupal, you can simply paste that into Google and ask for a Drupal geocoder tutorial. Okay, so let's get started. Here I have a base install of Drupal, more or less, with a couple of my favorite modules installed. But fundamentally, this is a base install of Drupal. Here we have the data file that I downloaded off data.gov.uk. The original file is about 5,000 records long. It is the list of all the libraries in the United Kingdom. I've cut it down to about 100 records, so we don't sit around and watch data importing all day long. For each library, it has the, for example, the county, the region the library's in, the name of the library, its address, email, phone number, and so forth. So we will start by creating a data model in Drupal to match our data model in the CSV file. So for each one of these columns that we want to keep inside of Drupal, we'll create a field in the Drupal database. And the way you do that in Drupal is using content types. So here, create a new content type. Library. Make a few settings. I'll remove body because we don't have that. And I'll start with the ID field. It is an integer. Save. And we'll just use the default settings. Next. ID, county, country, phone. So region, text. The country that the library is in, that will be England, Scotland, or Wales. The telephone number for the library. There is a specialized phone field available in Drupal contributed modules, but we are simply using Drupal core modules for this. We don't need that today. The next one is email and website. Okay, so now we're going to store an email address. We'll need some other modules, so I'm going to download these modules. I have them ready from Drupal.org using drush.dl. We're downloading address field, and we'll use that to store the address of the library. We'll use geocoder and geophp libraries to assign latitudes and longitudes to those addresses as they are imported. And link field is for a website address of the library. Feeds is the framework that we use to import data. email is what we're trying to do now, store the email address for the library. And Geo Field is exactly where we'll store the latitude and longitude that the geocoder module brings back from Google. So those are downloaded and installed now. I will enable all those modules. This might take a while because there's a lot of modules to enable. Probably about a minute or so. And you can see that Drupal and Drush has actually auto-detected that there's a dependency, and one of our modules requires another module, so it's automatically fetching that from Drupal.org and downloading and enabling that automatically, which is great. Drush is a tool that you can use from the command line to download modules and do various things in Drupal. It saves a huge amount of time, so I strongly recommend you download and install it. You can Google again for Drush tutorial. I think features is the last one here. There we go, all downloaded and enabled. I reload our page. And now we'll see here there's some new options for us to select, and I'm going to use an email field. After email, website address. So for website, we use the link field. Address, we use the address field. That's quite a complicated field type in Drupal, but very easy to configure. And then Geo Field. So the Geo Field is actually going to store the latitude and longitude. And here we're going to do some configuration. We will geocode from another field, because it has to know what to geocode. And it's going to geocode here from the address field. So whenever a library is saved, the Geo Field module will make a request to Google to get a latitude and longitude for the address that's inside the address field. Okay, so that's it. Basically, we've created our data model inside of Drupal. And now we have the CSV file that we have to import into this data model. And to do that in Drupal, one of the ways, and a great way for this sort of work, is to use feeds. So here we're going to create what's called a feeds importer, library importer. Now we'll enter some basic settings. Change the fetcher to CSV to a file upload. We can also fetch off the internet with a URL. The parser is a CSV parser. There's other options as well, such as RSS. Node processor will be importing libraries, replace existing, save. And now mapping is the key page. This is where we tell Drupal for each field in the CSV file, what do we map it to inside of Drupal. So let's start here. Identifier goes to ID. Next. County we map to our region field. Title we'll match to the node title. Street we match to the thoroughfare as a subfield inside address. Postcode is extremely important for getting accurate geocoding data. Make that to the postal code field. Union. Country field. We'll go to our text field we created. That will be England, Scotland or Wales. And finally, website. Go to URL. Right, so I think that's our data model. Okay, so now for this CSV file, we have instructions for Google in here, telling Google for each column what field to put it in inside the library data model. So now really all that's left is to import some data. So we can go to the import page, use our importer, upload our CSV file and import. Now this will take a minute. Normally, if we were not geocoding, this would do hundreds or thousands of records a second. However, for each row that's being imported, Drupal is making a request to Google to fetch latitude and longitude data for the address and storing it inside the Geo Field, and that takes a bit of time. So there we go, 94 records imported total. Now what I'll do is I'll just do a quick check to make sure that our data has been imported okay. I'm simply selecting some random libraries here and looking at the data. Looks like address is okay. Phone has come in. Website address looks good. Here we go, here's one with email, so that's working too. And that looks good to me. So, this is the finish of step 1, apart from one other thing we should do, actually. You can see here, the only data that we can see the address, but we can't see the geocoding data. So we really should check if the data has been geocoded properly. And because Geo Field is kind of back-end data, it's not displayed by default. So how we'll check that is log directly into the database using Drush again. And then query the Geo Field directly. And we can see here we've got a list of libraries and some latitudes and longitudes. So it looks like that's working correct as well. So that's good. So yeah, we've finished step 1, importing data. We've now imported, we created a data model, and we mapped our CSV to that data model, and then we imported the data, geocoding the addresses of the libraries on the way in. So that's the conclusion of step 1. Step 2, we will now display that data as a list, which is a task you very often do on on a website, is display lists of things. So for that, I'm going to enable the views module and then reload our page. I should now have views page available. Okay, I will add a new view. Call it library list. Display content of type library with no sorting. Let's give it a nice URL. Table display 20 and give it a menu item. Now before I create this, I have an anonymous browser here. You can see this is not logged in. It's the front page, and you can't see anything here. There's just a simple link to a front page home. That's going to change in a minute. So that looks good. I can create that. Now we'll simply add some fields to this view. So what do I want to display of our data? I want to display the region, the country, email, phone, perhaps the library name as well. I think we've got that in title. That should do for now. And save our view. Reload our page. You see a new menu item has appeared here, so we can click on that. And now we have our list, all pointing and clicking. And this is the displaying the list of libraries that we imported. So you'll note a few things here. Firstly, we can't click on any of these columns. Secondly, there's no way to search this list. So for example, show me all the libraries with phone numbers. And finally, I don't think the order of these columns makes sense. So we're going to change the order of the columns and make things sortable first as an improvement. To change the order of columns, it's very simple. Let's just move email, phone, region and country. And we'll also add sorting. Done. Save the view. Reload our page. You see the columns changed order as we told it to, and now each of these columns is now sortable. Again, all pointing and clicking, extremely easy to do in Drupal. So that's sortable. Now, one thing you'll note is each time I'm clicking these things, the page does a refresh. So let's enable Ajax. In Drupal, enabling Ajax on a list is as simple as checking a box, saving your page, reloading, and now you'll see the sorting is all done via Ajax, not a single line of code written. Next step, I want to be able to search this data. So let's add the ability to search. I will add some filter criteria. Let's search on country and email. Expose. Let's make this a regular expression so we can search within the field easily. Reload the page. Now I say show me only the libraries in Wales, and there we have it, Ajax searched in Scotland, or searching for all libraries with a .gov.uk email address. Easy as that. So that's the end of step 2. So firstly, we created a data model, imported our CSV into that data model, and now pointing and clicking created a page at libraries list to display a searchable, sortable, Ajax powered list. Step 3, what we'll do is we'll display this same data as a map. You remember when we imported Drupal geocoded each of the addresses for the libraries and gave them latitudes and longitudes, so we can display this data in the form of a map very easily. To do that, we'll need some more modules. Download Openlayers for Drupal. There's a couple of different modules available. Gmap is another one. Openlayers is pretty cool though. Enable the modules. Okay. So now if I reload the page, I should have some new options here. Openlayers here, maps. Now what we're going to do is Openlayers provides some default map configurations out of the box. We're going to use one as a base, so we'll clone the existing one. Put my little video back. Let's call it Drupal Meetup map. 400 wide. By 300. Right, so our data is only for the UK, so it would make sense that we configure the map to default, displaying the UK in a nice way. There we go. Should be that. There we go, that looks alright. So that's the first step. Next, we can go back to views. Now we create a new view. We'll call it library map. Content of type library. No sorting. Nice URL. And here now, before we only had the table option, we've now got a new option here because of Openlayers called Openlayers Map. That's what we'll use. Okay, so some configuration. Select our map. Looks good. Now add in data overlay. And this is where we choose, yeah. Okay. Okay, so now we need to tell Openlayers where the geocoded data is coming from. And so we tell it to get the geocoding data from the Geo Field. Okay, so we should save that now. Now back to map configuration. And we need to tell Openlayers to use the data. So for this map, we need to use the data overlay we've created. Save that. And now, see here we only have library lists. I should be able to reload the page. Click here, and we have a problem. That's okay. I'll just do some quick settings checks. No. Right, so okay, I made a configuration mistake there. That's better. So now we can see the map that I've created with all the libraries in the UK plotted. You can see we zoom in here, you can scroll and you can see the libraries dotted throughout the country. One thing about this though is that this information is not visually as good as it could be. It's quite hard to determine what this really means. And one of the cool ways to improve the visual communication in a map is to use something called clustering. There's no particular reason why I'm focusing on that today, just because it's a great opportunity to show how you can configure some really cool stuff without doing any programming. So we'll enable clustering as simply as editing our map configuration. Let's also make it a little bigger. And behaviors. I just find clustering. See all these behaviors that we can add and configure. All I have to do is enable clustering, save the map, reload the page, and you can see this is quite a bit clearer now. We can see whenever there's a large number of libraries close together, it will be grouped into a bunch, and when you're zooming in, it will be ungrouped as you get closer in. So that should be the end of step 2. So in step 1, we created our data model, imported our libraries data. Step 2, we displayed the data in a list, a searchable, sortable, AJAX-enabled list. And step 3, we displayed the data in a map. Step 4, we'll display the data in a chart. So we're going to use a pie chart and our pie chart will show what percentage of libraries are in England, Scotland, and Wales. To do that, we'll need some more modules. We'll use the charting module in Drupal. And the charting module has a number of plugins. You can also write your own. I like to use Google Charts because they're free, non-commercial, and they're great. So that's all downloaded and enabled now. And again, we'll go back to views. Add a new view. We'll call it libraries chart. Content of type library. Unsorted. Here again, we have a new option now, chart, instead of table and Openlayers map. Now we have to configure the chart view. Now to do that, whenever you use charting, you have to enable aggregation. We need to add some fields. Country will be our label. The unique identifier, which is going to be the node ID. And for the node ID, we will be counting. Remove the title. Tell the chart module that the country will provide the labels and the data is provided by the counted NID. So that should be enough. I should reload this page again. Here we have home, library list, library map. If I reload, we now have libraries chart. And now you can see we have a pie chart showing that 30% of libraries are in England, 10% of libraries are in Wales, and 60% of libraries are in Scotland. So that's the end of step 5. Step 4. We'll now move on to step 5. So at the moment we have an empty front page. We have our little visual widgets all on separate pages. So a great thing to do, for example, building a dashboard, a reporting dashboard for management on an intranet, is to collect different bits of information all on the same page. Now Drupal has a great module for that called panels. So we'll download and enable that. And now when I reload the page, I have a new option here called panels and pages. So I will add a custom page. Let's call it Visual Dashboard. Put it at Dashboard. I'll make it the home page. More settings. Now panels, when you configure a layout using panels, you can use pre-built layouts which are built in code, or you can use a builder. And the builder is just awesome for prototyping. It means you can point and click to lay things out on a page, which is really great for prototyping because again it enables you to do things without writing a single line of code. So we'll use that. Okay, so now now you can see the home page, which was previously with some filler content, now contains our title. So that means panels module has taken over that home page. Now, before we start to design and lay out our page, we need to kind of, how do we say, enable the visual assets that we've created, the list, the chart, and the map, for display within a single page, because currently they display on their own pages. And that means, we say in Drupal, adding a block view for each of those views. So we'll just do that quickly by adding a block view, which should be sufficient. So we've done that for chart, list, add block, and map. We should just make sure that this is configured correctly. Okay, so now we have a block view for each of our three pages. Still display on the pages fine, but now they're also enabled as an individual widget. So with that, we'll go back to our page configuration, find our custom page we've created, and now we'll design our layout. So I think for our layout, here we have a blank page. I think perhaps on the top left we'll have the map, on the top right we'll have the chart, and then at the bottom we will put the searchable, sortable list of libraries. So we can do that by using the layout designer. So our layout, to display things on the top and the bottom, that means we need 2 rows. Add a row to bottom. And the top row will have a left region and a right region. Left region. Right region. And the bottom row will simply have 1 region because it's going to be full width, so we'll call it full width region. And update and save. So now if we reload anonymous, remember this browser is anonymous, we don't see anything because we're not logged in. But now if we go to the home page logged in as administrator, I can see at the bottom of this page here, I customize this page. So if I click that button, now I can see the regions available that I've created. So on the left here, we simply click add content, find our chart, finish. The right region, let's find our map. And the bottom region, find our list. And now we click save. And we can reload the page. And now you see here, we have a kind of dashboard with our libraries chart on the top. Everything's still working, clustering's still working. And the really cool thing, showing how well Drupal and views especially is designed and built, our Ajax should still be working. So let's say search for Wales. And without leaving this page at all, the Ajax search is working and I can do all my sorting as per usual. So there we have it. Today we've done 5 steps in about 40 minutes with absolutely no coding whatsoever. We have created a data model in a database. We've imported a list of libraries of the United Kingdom by mapping the columns of the data file to the data model in Drupal. On the way in, as it was being imported, the addresses in the CSV were geocoded into latitudes and longitudes. And then we took that data and pointing and clicking, we created a searchable, sortable, Ajax-enabled list. We then showed a zoomable map with clustering support at the click of a button. And then we displayed the abilities of Drupal using the charts module to do some statistical analysis by showing the percentage of libraries by country. Then in the final step, we point and clicked a new layout design and inserted our little visual widgets into a dashboard. So I hope you found that impressive. I certainly do. I love Drupal. That's the end of the demonstration. Thank you for your time.